Welcome to the Ask Me How I Know show. I'm your host, Julie Holly, and I'm so excited you're here. Ask Me How I Know is the only podcast in the multifamily niche replicating what takes place outside the walls of a seminar. Remember when we used to get together like that? This is like the lobby where honest, unscripted conversations take place and transformation happens. We'll talk about practical problem solving in the multifamily niche as well as overcoming mental roadblocks. This episode is brought to you by 3 Keys Investments. 3 Keys Investments is dedicated to helping people like you, you, enter the multifamily investment space to build passive income and legacy wealth. If you haven't already subscribed and reviewed Ask Me How I Know, I'd be honored if you did. Thanks so much for joining me today, and now for our featured guest. Hey guys, welcome back to another awesome episode of Ask Me How I Know. If you are over on YouTube, you can see that I'm not in my studio right now. And that's what you do. In life, you need to flex and adapt and change as needed. And if you listen to this podcast long enough, you know I have internet issues. So anyhow, my awesome guest and I have troubleshot some internet issues and I've moved around, but enough about that because you guys are missing out on a fantastic guest. In fact, like a pivotal guest in my investment journey. So a lot of you know, Monique Halm was, kind of like my instant moment of, oh, what is syndication? And then I made a good friend with Brian Briscoe. And then next thing you know, because of Brian, I'm at Rod Khleif's boot camp a year ago now. And that's where I met Eric. And Eric, thank you so much for helping my husband and I make this decision to join Rod's program in such a nice way, because now I know you and I know the most amazing people. And I'm so excited to welcome you to Ask Me How I Know.
I am glad to be here and I'm glad to be part of your journey. And it was easy for me. And I actually enjoy that part of it, talking to people and saying, this has been my experience. I hope you make the decision for yourself as well. So I'm glad to be part of that.
It is. So how many people, what is that experience like? Because you're there and you really are just sharing your experience with the program. So how many people actually say like, wow, Eric, I want to be just like you?
It is, there are, probably a small percentage of the people that I talk to are ready for coaching. First of all, that's one of the bottom lines is it's a big decision. In fact, the reason I volunteered my time to do that with Rod for Rod's team is I sat there one day, the first event that I went to, and a lot of your listeners can probably relate to this. You run to the back of the room and sign up with a strategy call or whatever it is, right? Or strategist or whatever you want to call them. But the person I was talking to initially didn't have any experience with the program. They didn't have any experience with buying multifamily. And so I didn't feel like I was connected. And so when I had the opportunity to just allow other people to see what's actually possible if you apply yourself and kind of filter through some of the people who might not be ready for it yet, because those are the people who complain about coaching, is the people who are like just not ready to commit yet, to be honest. And so when I talked to you and your husband, I was like, trust me, you are a great fit for this. You're clearly committed. You're smart enough to do this by leaps and bounds. And so it's just a matter of acting. And thankfully you guys did, because now, just as you said, it's like it opens up this whole new world, this whole ecosystem of opportunity. There's no resource you can't find now, right? It's like you can find somebody to help you find deals. You can find somebody to help you raise capital. You can find somebody, on asset management. You just have the resources and structures there. And so I'm just excited to be a part of that. And I'll tell as many people as I can, you need coaching. And still to this day, like now, that was like 2.5 years ago when I got started. And I pay, upwards of 20,000 plus per year on coaching programs to just be better all the time, or masterminds to just surround myself by amazing people. That's what this is all about. It's people. So I'm glad you took that leap.
Oh, I am so grateful that we took that leap. And no joke, every time I think about that decision, like I see the 3 of us sitting at this little table,
Yeah.
It's like, and just having such a great conversation now. And I love that you're already answering how do you know? You're sharing all of your experience of how you know how powerful this is, but it's really exciting to see where you've gone. I've had one of your partners on Ask Me How I Know. So you guys go check out Tim Kelly's episode. He's amazing. But can you give us a window into where investing has taken you and what you guys have developed and cultivated?
Yeah, absolutely. So I initially was a limited partner just before I saw Rod's program and just got into the idea of even actively investing as a general partner. And so um, really taking action and getting involved and, buying coaching and advancing the process really has now led me to a place where we can invest, and we spoke a little bit about this off air, but we can invest every year as comfortably as we want. And one thing that I have learned through the coaching process is patience. In 2020, so I'll say this, in 2019, we bought 571 doors with partners and varying teams, some as, co-sponsored and some on our own. We did. And then 2020, we bought zero. And with a huge first full year in investing, I went into 2020 imagine the momentum behind that mentality. Like, what is about to happen? Like, holy cow, this is going to blow up. We're going to
10,000 units are
yeah,
come down the door, baby.
I mean, we had set a goal of 1,600 units in 2020, but what happened? I should say, and not but. And what happened from that is we were able to slow down, spend time on our current assets, and make sure those are doing very well. And which we did. We spent a lot of time in 2020 managing those assets and just kind of making sure that our tenants were comfortable and that we were able to communicate effectively with them. And so we learned a lot through that. But also I learned that you've got to be patient. And I can see that deals are still coming through, and I'm watching the shift in momentum from it being a seller's market to a buyer's market here, hopefully soon. And I see the mentality shift in some sellers. And that's exciting to see, because now I know it was worth the wait, because now I can go in with a stronger offer that I feel is comfortable for us and for our underwriting. And then we can go get a great deal. Our investors are going to be happy, and that'll just lead to more deals. The more you close, the more deals come your way. So I'm just really excited to have all of this experience and in a relatively short amount of time. And now we're at that point where, like our mentor says, one good broker can make you wealthy. And so we're just fostering those relationships. We don't do any advertising. We don't do any direct mailing. We don't do any of that. We just talk to the brokers we know and that know we close. And then they send us the listings that make sense for us. So it's an amazing thing. And in the meantime, we're building other businesses and things. So that keeps us very busy.
Wow, I have so many questions for you there. A lot of people, especially newer investors, they're trying to get their first deal. They're chasing after, where's the deal? You and I have seen a lot of people overpaying and doing some wild things, just to get their first deal. So I agree with you. Patience is really important. And I call it suffered. I've suffered through just being patient because if it doesn't pencil out and doesn't have the returns, it's not worth it. It's better to just simply wait and everything.
Don't overpay, people. Do not do it.
Oh my gosh.
It's not worth it.
Right. My background in residential is a constant reminder of never overpay, never overpay.
Right.
So can you tell me about those broker relationships that you've developed and how you nurture them? Because it doesn't sound like it's super labor intensive, but it's very productive.
Yeah. I recommend this to anybody I'm trying to help along the way. So you can find brokers. I'll just break it down to like the whole kind of process from beginning to end. You can go to LoopNet or wherever and find brokers in the market that you want to invest in, right? And when you do that, say you have a list of 10 brokers, you're reaching out to them, you're trying to get on their automated email list. That's an easy, no brainer. You can do that without even interacting with them. Just go on their website, click a link that's part of their funnel or whatever, and get on their email list. Now, the other part of that is you need to get their personal email address, which you can find on their website, right? You can find brian@cbre.com or whatever it is, right? So whenever you get an automated email from a broker, with here's our new listing and blah, blah, blah. It's not something you're probably going to be interested in because OMs are usually garbage. And, but what you're going to do is you're going to look at that and say, and figure out one or two things that don't fit your criteria. You're going to email. So forward that. But in the to line, you're going to put Brian at CBRE or whatever the thing is, whatever his or her personal email address is, and say, hey, I got this listing from you. Thanks very much for sending that my way. But I just wanted to remind you that our criteria is X, and this is why this asset doesn't meet it. If you find anything that's, 100 plus units in this market, please let me know if it's off market, and I'd love to underwrite. So that's like they're not expecting your email, but you just introduced yourself to them without even knowing who you are. And then you can set up a call with them. And if you do that on a consistent enough basis, and you're diligent about getting on the phone with them and meeting with them when it's safe to do so, that is going to make them you have to show up for them. They have to know you exist, first of all. And then when you show that you're consistent with them, they might give you a shot. Even if they're sending you stuff that's on market, underwrite it. And say, oh, thanks, this one looks like it's close. And we're in the business, by the way, of writing an offer that's as close to that asking price as possible. This one sits about right here. If you can give me any more substantial evidence as to why our offer should be higher, we'd love to increase it. You just need to give us that justification. And so it's really just, see, I'm rattling this off, but it's just that way you communicate with brokers, and then they start to take you more seriously. You develop that relationship, and then once you close one deal with them, they're going to come right back to you because you're buying them their next Porsche, right?
Right, exactly. Or McLaren. That's a car.
Or McLaren,
yeah. My son is a little obsessed right now with McLarens.
Yeah.
Literally put it on his vision board.
I have to do a couple deals for that.
Yeah, exactly. Are you worth the McLaren?
Yeah.
Well, that's a really great way of breaking it down. Now, how important do you think it is? How do you know about your investment criteria? A lot of newer investors are kind of like so hungry for their first deal that they are like, well, as long as the numbers work. And I'm going to throw myself under the bus. I've definitely heard myself even say, like, I know what I want, but the numbers work. So how important do you think that is for the newer investor?
I think it's important for for newer investors to understand the appetite for their investors, for their equity investors, their limited partners. So sending them an investor questionnaire and asking them, what asset class do you like? What vintage? And part of why you have equity partners, the way to attract them is to educate them. So he's using words like vintage, and they go, oh, what's that? But then it shows, 1970s, 80s, 90s, whatever. So a little bit of education, but at the same time, polling the audience. You need to know if they're interested in mobile home assets, storage assets, multifamily assets, what level they're comfortable investing in, what returns they're looking for. And if you poll all of your investors and you see that most people are invested for X reasons, and you could actually give them reasons why in a drop down or something. But if they're interested in 50 to 100 units for some reason, they just have a reason for you, then great. Then maybe that's where you need to stick. And I would say a lot of investors probably aren't going to know what they would like you to invest in for them, but you can give them kind of a range and say, well, there's less competition between 20 and 50 doors, but this is what the returns would look like, or maybe we could JV. So it's just really a communication. I would say you need to figure out what you're capable of, but also what your investors are comfortable investing in.
That is well said. I would say beautifully said. So, really exceptional, and really understanding who your investors are instead of just like going through the process of like, great, I got an investor. Woohoo. Really know who your investor is so you can represent and be their ambassador.
Yep.
That's so powerful. So I want to ask you, how did you get involved? Before you joined a mentorship program and everything, you already were involved passively. I'm stumbling over my words for some reason. So how did you find that first passive investment? Because a lot of times people find this barrier to entry, and it seems like once somebody figures this out, and it seems like a magical moment for a lot of people, like, oh, I just magically found this investment process. So how did you find it, and how do you think other people can help free others into this wonderful world?
Yeah, I'll give you a couple ways. One way I did it, and one way I would recommend others do it. The way I did it was I was on, I think, Facebook, and I saw one of my friends, one of my college friends, who's actually on my wife's gymnastics team in college, and he's now super successful with this thing called syndication, this multifamily syndication. He had syndicated at the time about $1.5 billion since 2008. So I reached out to him like, hey man, I'm investing in some single family stuff, like a turnkey single family, and I like to figure it out. And do you have a second to chat? And he was like, sure. And so he told me like, Eric, there's this whole thing out there, like we buy apartments and this is what it would look like. So he took some time with me and said, here's what a 70-30 pref deal would look like for you at a 15% IRR. You'd essentially double your money in 5 years. And I'm just going like, wow, holy cow, that's awesome. So I had this trust with him, right? And so I wrote him a check and invested about 3 years ago. And so that was my way in. But if you don't have a person that you know really well that you can trust and dial up on the phone and actually have a educational kind of conversation with them, here's what I recommend doing. Go to a meetup or a conference whenever we can go out to conferences, or a virtual conference is fine too. Look at who is on stage. And typically what that means is whoever's hosting that conference has vetted them and understands that they're doing things the right way. Then try and figure out, how do I get on their email list? How do I check out their assets? How can I get a phone call with them? And they'll take your phone call. They should take your phone call. And especially if you're a potential limited partner, passive investor. So that's just one way that I would probably, going back, I would say, okay, well, somebody's vetted the people on stage, or else they wouldn't be up there. They wouldn't have rapport built with the host of the conference or the speaker or whatever. So I would say that's an easy button for me. Register for a free virtual webinar or something and see who's speaking. Clubhouse is another big thing right now, and you'll hear a lot. And be careful in there because there's no way to really vet people, so to speak, but you can see their bios. You'd have to vet all that. But a lot of people talking very intelligently in Clubhouse right now about assets and how to buy and what they do. And there's a lot of connections going on there too.
Clubhouse is pretty fun.
Yeah.
It's a really fun rabbit hole to go.
Yeah. I'm really trying to stay like, if I go in, I want to be engaged as a speaker or moderator so that I'm kind of managing my time versus like sitting there as a listener and just trying to absorb information. Now, if it's some topic I'm trying to learn, absolutely. But it's like you said, rabbit hole. Like you could sit on there, and I intentionally don't. I'm like 1 hour a day max, but you could sit in there for 4 hours and just, it would blow by and you're like, whoa, these people are all pitching themselves and their deals and whatever. So anyway.
It is. I'm very self-controlled when it comes to that stuff. It's very strategic. I ain't nobody got time. I've got business to do.
Exactly.
And that's what pays the bills. I mean, it's super fun to be over there, but
somehow Grant Cardone has 8 hours in the day to be on Clubhouse. So I don't know how he does it.
Oh, I love that concept though. I have this written on my desk, and it says like, you need to be on stage, you need to be a focal point or some of that nature. Yeah. That's where it really pays out. And so that makes sense.
Ask me how I know. You've got to, I mean, absolutely. And that's a huge part of what I love doing, is like telling people, you've got to have a brand. You've got to brand yourself, and whatever that thing is. I'm like, if you are high school sweetheart investors, brand it so you stand out, or if you're, I don't care, whatever it is, like I'm a military real estate investor, like that's my brand. That's what I go out and tell people. It just, people go, wait, oh yeah, Eric's the military guy. Okay, cool. Yeah. And that's great. That's branding, right? So yeah, you got to use your time wisely. And when you get a second to talk about yourself and your brand, it's impactful to have, something that's deliberate out there that people can, and memorable, that people can relate to.
Well, I'm going to take the silver platter moment right now, because I was going to ask you about your brand. I love active duty passive income, and I'm a little bit I always just say like, I wish I could be part of it. I can't be because I'm not, I haven't served our country in this capacity. And I'm always very grateful, by the way. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
But tell us about your brand, because I want everyone to know who's listening. I know a lot of people, and it's huge. It's huge, but I know a lot of people involved with ADPI, and they are all like top shelf, high caliber, amazing people. And I think that's what attracts me to it. It's like, oh my gosh, these people are off. Like, it's almost like they just like cloned all these most amazing people. Like, how is this possible?
It's amazing that similar energies attract similar energies, right? And that's honestly how we all kind of came together. And it's complementary skill sets is one thing that amazes me most about all of my partners at ADPI, and honestly our community as well. So for those of you who don't know what it is, our company is Active Duty Passive Income. So we're the premier military real estate investing education platform and community in the U.S. and actually internationally with U.S. soldiers who are all over the place. So we have actually just launched an 85 lesson single family course. We have a multifamily course and masterminds for both of those that coincide for accountability and connecting. And then, from there, so just to backstep a little bit, we started with when Markian and I and Mike and I were founding this company, it was an idea that Markian had to just kind of document his process with buying real estate. And he's a third generation Ukrainian immigrant and active duty Marine Corps officer. And he was just like, I just want to tell people like what I'm doing. And then we found him, and then it was like 100-person Facebook group. And now it's at 16,000 plus and growing by 1,500 people a month, and it's just this massive thing but the way that happened, and I recommend anybody, once you find your brand, what we did was just started trickling in little pieces of value. Like, you're making a podcast, then add blogs and encourage other people to write blogs for you and give them a backlink or something, and then you'll get content that you can get out to your community. And as that grows, listen to your community, listen to the people who fall under your brand. They started telling us, well, we need lending. Military members are moving all over the country all the time, like recession or not, high or low, PCS is permanent change of station is happening all the time, every single month, with thousands and thousands with 1.4 million service members happening all the time. So we were like, okay, well, so anyway, now we have a 100% ESOP employee-owned stock option mortgage branch, so we can serve that community. And now we have an insurance company to serve the community. And it really just snowballed, a real estate brokerage. So that is what I do. That's my passion. I love it. And we're able to just like, we get the feedback we get, the energy we get from the room, from the crowd, from the community is like, it's infectious. And we hear people saying like, all I needed was that spark. Like, I didn't know that you could do this. I didn't know you could buy a fourplex with my VA loan. Like no one teaches that except us. So it's just been incredible to grow. And I agree with you that our team is amazing. And we couldn't do it without having such an amazing team and willing to bend. And a lot of us have full-time jobs as well, which is insane. Active duty, our CEO is active duty still. So it's pretty crazy.
It is pretty crazy when I think about, trying to find the balance, and I'm really stepping away from the word balance because it
Me
really
too.
is more,
Yeah.
it's okay. So what word do you use instead of balance?
Craziness. It's just like, I mean, I have a wife of 16 years, 2 boys, a full-time job. We have ADPI. There's 5 brands in ADPI that we manage and that we're growing. And then we have apartment assets. So I'm working like most nights. I'm working till 9 or 10 o'clock at night. And I stop in the middle for dinner and putting my kids to bed. And I read to my boys every single night. And that's important to me. And I have an amazing spouse. She takes care of us and couldn't do this without her for sure. So it's just, there's no balance. It's time blocking. It's like, what's my priority right this second? Like, what do I do? How do I get through this day providing the most value to the most amount of people? And part of that is a big thing that I talk about often is the success formula of like, what does that look like? I think about my success formula all day. I'm looking at my vision boards, but it's that 1% better daily. So it's learn all you can, network your butt off, add value to everyone you possibly can, and take massive action, which we hear all the time. If you do those 4 things over and over consistently to be 1% better daily, success will hunt you down. You don't have to worry about whether or not you're going to find success or achieve your dreams. If you just do those 4 things, it's coming after you. Success is chasing you if you do those things. So, but it just takes that consistent effort of craziness, not balance, to get through it for a while.
There is a level of insanity. In fact, I've had some friends just say, like, as I told friends when I got involved, I just said, listen, I won't be hosting, because I used to host a bunch of events and stuff at my house. I'm like, I just want you to know that it's not you. I wanted them to know right up front. And so if you're listening to this and you're ready to really, truly take the plunge, and you want to be all in, committed, it's not a forever it's not, the insanity isn't forever, but you have to pay your dues at some point. And you're going to pay them either being nickel and dimed for a long period of time, or you can just suck it up and like go all in and pay the dues in a real intense way. So I told my friends, I'm like, okay, so it's not you. I just want you to know I have a plan and this is what I'm doing. So I won't be hosting events, and I really just don't want your feelings to be hurt.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, and every entrepreneur will tell you out there, when you're starting a business or a new thing, there's sacrifice involved. I mean, there's long days. There's a lot of loneliness in this also, in building a business. And just, you've got to just persist. It just constantly thinking the obstacle is the way. Okay, how did that affect me? That happened for me, not to me, and just constantly moving past obstacle after the next, and recognize them as opportunities.
I love that. A lot of people don't really speak candidly about the loneliness that can set in. I have a friend, a tent designer, and he's amazing and innovative, and he's on a path, and it's been lonely, and we'll send texts and everything, and just kind of cheer him up. And so all this to say, like, it's a lonely process. And so how do you, a lot of people, I don't think, anticipate that level of loneliness, because you're intensely putting in, actively building something. And so how do you know about the loneliness part, and what did you do about it?
Yeah, I mean, what I have come to realize is that no one is going to be able to achieve what I want to achieve better than myself, and you're going to alienate people. The loneliness comes from alienation a lot of times. So had you not been proactive about telling your friends and family that I'm not going to be hosting, and you're going to see a little bit less of me, but it's with intention, and I don't think a lot of people do have that foresight. They just dive into something, and people are like, what happened to Julie? Like, where's Julie all of a sudden? Does she not like us? She too good for us? Or is she, oh, she's an investor now, huh? Oh, okay. And so that's how you alienate people. And so loneliness comes sometimes from leaving people who aren't on the same page as you behind, and not in a negative way. It's just, you are in charge of your life, and you are in charge of helping your family achieve the dreams that they deserve. And it's not your neighbor, it's not your friends. And so you make a choice, you make a decision, you stick with it. And sometimes that leaves you with less of your old friends, but you're going to have a lot of new friends who are thinking the same things you are, that are going to encourage you as well. So it is tough sometimes, but and you're not intentionally leaving friends behind at all. It's not what I mean by that. It's just, you've got to set your mindset in the right place of just like, I am. I mean, I write every day in my journal, I am an amazing influencer. I am an attentive father. I am whatever it is, and those affirmations are going to help you get through some of the loneliness too.
Yeah. Preach it. I do have my I ams as well. And it's interesting that that loneliness component can really sideswap some people. And I've spoken a lot on my podcast on mindset episodes about, even sometimes these type of processes will just it's not that somebody is a good or bad person. It's just you're changing, and that's okay. You can change and progress in a different way.
That's right.
Whew. So what is on the horizon, Eric? You have exciting things going on. Aside from, can I just say, didn't I see your sons like, pulling up a tile floor?
Oh yeah, that's funny. Yeah, so I'm pretty I get pretty ambitious with projects around the house sometimes, and that's like that's like an outlet. Like I need a project. This summer I built a driveway on the side of the house, and that was a lot of labor, and but I involved my sons, and then this one I was like, man, it's winter and it's California and it's like kind of rainy, and I now need an indoor project. So floor, I was like, this floor is like from 2003. It's too dark. It's gross. Like, I don't know. Let's put something in. So I just said, kids, grab a hammer. And they went in there and they thought that's fun, right? Doing the demo work. So just put on some goggles, some safety gloves. I think they were still in their socks, but that's all right. Nobody will know. And then I just let them hammer the floor until all the tiles came up, and they did a great job and learned something. And then we hired somebody to tile it, because I feel like tile work and some of that intricate work is like an art. You need to get it right. And so we found somebody to tile it up, but
it is completely an art, and the kids love it. We had our kids tearing up a tile countertop in one of our properties, and it's like, what kid is not going to love that? Wait, I can be destructive in the house. This is fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's fun.
And they're learning something along the way. But aside from tearing up floors and doing some fun indoor projects, what do you have going on that you're excited about?
I am excited about the growth of our company. It is doing some amazing things right now, and we're forming some amazing partnerships that are going to propel us into a whole new ballpark. So look out for active duty passive income. We're about to take over the world.
I'm pretty sure of that.
but then on a multifamily side, we're working on a 72 unit asset that we have an LOI on, and we're the only offer now that's being entertained. So we're hoping that that's going to work out pretty well. We're holding at our original offer. We lost this offer to another buyer 3 months ago, but they couldn't close. They offered apparently too much. And so we said, okay, well, we're still here. So the broker came back to us and we wrote another LOI, and hoping that'll pan out, but who knows? And if it doesn't, there's another almost 400 unit asset that we're looking at, as well as 119 unit. And so those types of deals are just, again, the easy button kind of broker relationships of, they know who we are and they send us things that they think would fit our portfolio, and, our resources can be used, like our property management teams in place and all that stuff. So that's low hanging fruit for us. And then we've got, I'm working on with another warrior, actually, another coaching student friend of mine. We're working on a storage asset, Powell, working on a 300 something unit storage facility. So love the opportunity to learn about storage. So
there's a lot of opportunity in storage. It's like the rabbit hole of which asset class. This is one reason my husband said, are you going to actually stay within like multifamily? And I'm like, no, the beauty is there's apartments and there are all these different asset class. Like you can never get bored, and you will never get bored, because you guys will just add one more tentacle to ADPI.
Yeah. It's interesting because we've now bought multifamily, but also a mobile home community, and that mobile home community is killing it. I mean, we bought it for $995 just over a year ago, and it's worth about 2.2 million right now. And so we're considering selling that, and that'll offer us the opportunity to show our family office investor that go full cycle with them and show them that we can provide amazing returns and that we're capable. And I don't know. So I'm looking forward to seeing if that happens. That should happen, I would imagine, in the next 6 months or so. So that'll be exciting too.
That is really exciting. I know that we're going to have to wrap up here in just a moment, but I think we have time to tackle one more really interesting topic, right? Sure. And that is the elusive family office, right? So they are elusive. Are they worth people hunting down and forming those relationships with? What are some of the, the blessings and some of the challenges that you face?
Great question. Glad you brought that up because I don't think it's talked about a lot. And we don't have a ton of experience, but we do have one deal done so far with the family office, and they underwrite with us all of our other deals. After we do, they look at the underwriting, is what I mean by that. And we literally, every deal that we submit an LOI on, they're also looking at it with us, even prior to the LOI being signed. So just to get them involved as quickly as possible. So some pros are they can write a $20 million equity check. I mean, that's a insane thing to have, right? To be able to say as part of your war chest. But the drawbacks could be you don't want to hang your hat on just that opportunity. You still need to season your investors and make sure that they are coming along in case you need, in case the family office maybe only wants to fund a part of the equity or whatever the case may be, right? So, but in the mobile home park is a great example that we bought. They funded debt and equity. So that was positive for us. Yeah, that was positive for us because at $995,000 purchase price, we were having a hard time finding debt. Local banks and credit unions didn't understand how to underwrite the asset because its mobile home parks were a little bit more confusing to underwrite. And so we found them on LinkedIn, and they said, well, let's just do the debt and equity. And we'll do equity if you give us the debt, is kind of how they said it. And we're like, well, okay.
Twist my arm.
Yeah. And then they actually gave us more of the deal than we had requested. It was a 70-30 syndication, and they said, let's do 60-40 in your favor.
Wow.
So that you can be, it was their level of comfort that we were a little bit more involved than 30% ownership. So I'm like, yep. All right. That's okay with us. Another thing that's kind of cool is the only skin in the game we were able to negotiate in there was our acquisition fee. So instead of taking the acquisition fee, we left it in the deal. So that was pretty amazing. Now, some cons. I think I mentioned one earlier that they may not be the end all be all. So don't hang your hat on it necessarily because they have, their criteria changes or whatever. So communication is important, but also you don't want necessarily on you wouldn't want every one of your assets to be funded debt and equity by, this family office. There's a lot of control on any given asset if you do that. Similarly, if they're your JV partner or something like that. So it's just a balance. We prefer bank debt. We prefer to have a small balance a loan if we can, but they saved us on that mobile home park asset. So that was fantastic.
That is fantastic. Now, why would you prefer the bank debt?
Just so we're not using them for debt and equity. I mean, it's great that they offered that and the terms were great, but just for security's sake, we don't want them to have all of the leverage, right?
Right.
And it's a lot of responsibility for them as well. They're kind of going on a limb, so to speak, with us as operators until they know who we are. And thankfully they did that on the first one, and we knocked it out of the freaking park on that. Kind of funny I said that. Knocked it out of the mobile home park.
Right.
And so it was good that they did that, but still, it's just keeping things as fair as we can, and we like to use bank debt. So
that's really interesting and helpful because a lot of people want to pursue family office, or some people that have it, they don't actually speak about it. It's almost like if you have a baby that sleeps through the night, you just keep your mouth shut. Like, I've got a family office, I'll keep my mouth shut. So,
yeah. Well, and debt is going to be more expensive with the family office also. So that's another reason. But if it pencils out well, then that's great.
Then it makes sense.
Yep.
That is fantastic. Eric, I am so grateful to have you on Ask Me How I Know. I cannot believe that it's taken this long, but actually just that we're recording around exactly the year mark of when I actually met you. It's actually kind of serendipity a little bit. Yeah. So I appreciate it.
I'm
How
glad
can
to see
people,
you growing.
yeah, how can, thank you. How can people reach out to you?
You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on Instagram at Real Eric Upchurch, or you could email me eric@activedutypassiveincome.com.
Awesome. And do I have to be active duty to join ADPI?
You do not have to be active duty, but you have to be either a current service member, active duty, veteran, or military spouse or family member. Yeah, it's a closed Facebook group to keep operational security intact. And but you'll see us out there talking anyway, outside of the group and stuff. But yep, it's for anybody who served, past or present.
All right. So if you fit that criteria, I highly recommend going and checking out ADPI. I have no doubt every person I've crossed, paths with that's associated with it is phenomenal. So
well, I appreciate that.
Yeah, no, y'all learn it. So thanks again, Eric. And for my awesome audience, thank you for joining me for this great episode. And please remember, every day, one decision, just like Eric said, it's just that 1% better every day, and success will chase you down and you will have the freedom you are after. Thanks so much for joining me for another episode of Ask Me How I Know. This episode was brought to you by 3 Keys Investments. They are dedicated to helping people like you, you, my awesome listeners, develop passive income and legacy wealth through multifamily investing. Feel free to check out their website, 3keysinvestments.com, to see if there is an offering that will help your portfolio grow and meet all of your needs. If you haven't already rated, reviewed, subscribed, liked, all of those bells and whistles, I would be absolutely honored if you would do that for Ask Me How I Know. Thanks again, and go make it a great day.